Hello, survivors. Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. I'm your host, Geoffrey Card, and over here to my left, we've got a couple of people. Matt Heiniger.
Hello.
Matt Heiniger is a tech artist. He is our lighting expert, and he's here to talk to us because we made a bunch of graphical improvements to the Juggernaut Edition.
We did.
So we're going to show you some of those. We've also got Brant here.
Hello.
He's
As
behind the
usual.
wheel. So let's throw the game up on screen. But no, wait, before we do that.
Oh.
I forgot. Sorry. One thing we need to do, we've got a dev diary. Some of you who follow us on YouTube have already seen this, but to get everyone on the same page, you guys can put your headphones on if you like so you can monitor it. We should listen and watch that. So let's start with the dev diary, then we'll go into the details.
We started with our art director, Kevin Punn, going in and doing paint overs. So he grabbed screenshots of the maps and went in and actually hand painted over the images, say, this is how I want it to look. This is the visual quality I expect for our game for Juggernaut. Graphics was a very special group because it's so impactful for the entire game. I mean, it's the entire look. There's everything from terrain shaders, materials, art, props, the character themselves, the water, the way it moves, flows, and all the VFX. There's the lighting, which interacts with every single asset.
We did changes to the road shader. We did changes to the terrain, the grass, the foliage, the new front-end interfaces. Brand new lighting pass on the community screen. It makes the characters pop so much more.
That team started out really nebulous of how do we improve overall graphics, and we really narrowed that down.
One of the big improvements that we made is to the lighting of the game. The very first thing you see is this gorgeous orange sunset. And I was able to redo that entire scene to a much greater effect. I've wanted to have more of a visual distinction between the maps. So you can look at a screenshot or look at what your friend's playing on a stream or something and immediately know which map they're in. I wanted each map to have its own kind of mood. It's so much closer to what I've had in my head all along, and it's really great allowing the players to see that. The great thing about Juggernaut is not any one new feature that we changed. Just how different it looks when you add all of these up together, that's really what Juggernaut is all about for me.
All right, so that video is going to be on YouTube. In fact, it's already on our YouTube channel. You can check it out. In fact, I'm sure we'll put like a link somewhere at the end of this video. But let's go back to Matt real quick and just like, okay, so you got to relight this game from scratch. It's not an opportunity people get all the time.
It's really not. So a couple of things about that. One is that like we're kind of a small team, and very small. Yeah, we tend to punch way above our weight, and the lighting was kind of one of these things where like we don't have a lighting department. We have me, and lighting is one of my jobs. And so it kind of, we got it to the point of good enough to ship, but we never got it to the holy crap, this is amazing, we love how it looks kind of thing. Once we started working on Juggernaut, I finally had that extra polish time that I needed to go in and completely rework everything.
So we actually have, let's see here, we've got some of these before and after photos. We saw a few of these in the dev diary, but this is going to be fading, hopefully, if it works right, fading between the different views. So we get about 5 seconds looking at the old lighting, then it'll switch to the new lighting. So it's a subtle difference in some places, but it definitely feels like a lot warmer in Jefferson County. Do you want to talk about sort of the thought process for like how you approached trying to make these kinds of changes?
Yeah, so I wanted each map to kind of have its own visual identity. I wanted this idea of being able to look at a screenshot and knowing exactly what map the player is in for that screenshot. Drucker County is supposed to be kind of this dry, almost desert-like kind of place, very dusty, sandy, very bright lighting kind of stuff.
You wanted to feel hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally forgetting the names of the
Cascade Hills?
Cascade Hills.
Cascades. That's the farmlands, right? Yeah.
So the farmlands is Meager Valley.
Okay, yeah. So Cascade, it's a lot more overcast. I went for kind of almost like a sick green sort of tinge to it.
Yeah, I noticed it. A lot of the screenshots, like it'll fade to gray. Like the old version will fade to gray in the distance, but then the new version it'll fade to green in the distance instead, right?
Yeah. So we did some color grading across all of it too to help push that visual identity per map.
So is that a difference in the lighting, or is that like a post-process effect that happens later?
Everything.
It's just everything.
It's the lighting, it's the post-processing. We backported volumetric fog from a newer version of Unreal into our version of it. Now that we have a graphics engineer, yay! Just lots and lots of things thrown together that all give it this new look.
Well, let's drop into gameplay whenever you're ready, Brant.
Boink.
So here we are. So this is Cascade Hills, and you can see that green cast on the horizon.
Yes.
There's a lot to this. So, by the way, are we playing at the right time of day?
Sure.
So if you ever have a problem with the time of day, you want to show something else, let us know. We can cheat for a different time of day.
I set it at noon.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges to lighting in this game is that we kind of have a lighting artist's worst nightmare for every possible scenario. We have dynamic time of day. We have seamless interior-exterior transitions. We have no unmotivated light sources. We have no electricity. We have multiplayer. Just everything that can make lighting hard, we have it.
So tell us about no electricity, like the impact that has, and what you're able to do.
So normally with lighting a video game, you have the opportunity to like put a faint green light over a door to kind of draw the player's eye into that direction. Say, hey, we want you guys to go here. There's an important thing over here, so we add a little bit of light to kind of, nudge the player. We don't get that here. We have no electricity, so we don't have any opportunities to throw in lights.
So like if you're trying to light some sort of interior space or whatever, you can't just arbitrarily stick lights on tables or anything. You have to actually try to work with the windows and the things that are available to you, and there's just limits on that if you're trying to be realistic.
It is, and yeah. Basically, my process is that I light the exterior as best I can, and the interior just kind of has to work. Rather than like adding extra light into the room, I can fake things in the materials for the room so that it bounces around more light from the small windows that it has.
Oh, interesting. Kind of like how when you're getting your picture taken and they get one of those those big boards of,
the bounce
to try
cars,
to bounce slide around. Mm-hmm. Like you're kind of doing that invisibly in the background to try to make the right kind of lighting happen.
Yes.
Wow.
Basically, like any time of day has to look good.
Smash that guy. Boom.
In every scenario, and it's just a nightmare.
So, looks like he's staggered him, so he's getting pretty close to. Ah, no! Almost got away.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Almost.
I see what you did there, Mark.
Almost not fine.
Okay, so the first set, so we're going to release a comprehensive set of release notes with the Juggernaut Edition. It is the longest list of patch notes we have ever done, and so I've cut out like a section of those, and I just want to go over the graphical improvement section and maybe get some of Matt's input on what a lot of this stuff means.
Sure.
So the first section is lighting, which is definitely dead center of your wheelhouse.
Yes.
So I'm going to read some of these things and then kind of pause and let me know if there, if there's anything you can add to it.
All right.
So we performed an extensive lighting and post-processing pass on the 4 existing maps: Cascade Hills, Drucker County, Meager Valley, and Trumbull Valley, the Heartland map. And so so we improved the color gradient, give each map a distinct visual identity. You already talked about that a little bit, right?
Yep.
So like Drucker is very warm and dry and hot.
Yep.
And Cascade's got this green cast to it. What happened to Meager Valley?
That one was a tricky one because the other maps kind of had their visual distinction. Farmland was kind of a tricky one. I went back and forth on that one quite a lot, actually.
Well, I figured that before you did these relightings, I felt like Meager Valley had the strongest identity already because it was it's sort of flat, big sky. Like the overall sort of any random frame of the game you took looked different in Meager Valley than it did in the other places.
Right.
And so you were already dealing with a huge difference. So trying to make it more distinctive might have been a challenge.
Yeah. So that one actually, because it was the most distinct already, it got the least amount of upgrades. It still looks better, but it's not quite as striking when you stand them next to each other as the other 2 core maps.
Yeah, it did look like it, like in the screenshots the comparison shots I've seen. It does feel like the line is just a little bit more dramatic. Maybe like the darks are darker and the brights are brighter.
Yeah, that was across the board.
Cool.
So my process was actually starting with that map with Drucker. Meager.
With Meager, yeah.
I started with that one because it was the closest to what I actually wanted in the first place, and I got that one to final and then kind of propagated those changes over to the other maps and then strayed the other maps from that.
So Meager was kind of like the model for a lot of the improvements you wanted to make. All right. The next thing on the list was we greatly expanded the luminosity range of daytime lighting. Overall, sunlight looks more natural, and material response to light is more pronounced. This was like wordsmithed in such a way to feel like it makes sense to a newcomer, but I genuinely don't actually know what it means on a technical level.
Basically, what you said is the brights are brighter, the darks are darker.
Okay, so it's that. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
There's more contrast. We do so you do that thing where you walk into a dark room and then things slowly fade up and it brightens a little bit, and then you step outside and everything's blown out and then it clamps back down again. That is auto exposure. And so the actual numeric values that we're cranking into the game have a higher range. And so you're actually going to get more of that shift in brightness when you move in and out of the outdoors.
So, and that means like the sun is going to feel brighter when you're outside because it has such a difference between the outside and the interiors.
And then we also wanted to push like the difference between 9 a.m. once you no longer have like the oranges from sunrise and stuff to noon. Previously, those looked very, very similar. The same way we wanted to like be able to look at a screenshot of different maps and know where we were, I wanted to look at different screenshots and know what time of day it was.
Oh.
And so like at noon, everything is just a little bit blown out. Like it's a little bit too bright to kind of help sell, hey, this is high noon, there's a lot of sun.
Your character might be feeling hot right now.
Yes. And then like 9 a.m., we pull that back a little bit.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It says that you also, we adjusted sun position in several maps, making it easier to discern time of day. Was that part of that process?
A little bit. We had some issues because, like, since we're not hand placing individual lights anywhere, we had some maps where, like, the sun came up in due west, and a lot of the buildings just happened to line up so that they never actually got any light in any of the windows.
Oh,
We kind of want the sun on, like, a 15, 20 degree angle, so you always get, like, this little sliver of light on at least one side or two sides of the building at any given time.
So, in addition to the zombie apocalypse, the Earth has also tilted slightly on its axis to move the sun position on these maps.
As it will do.
Yeah, so we're basically dealing with compounding apocalypses now.
Yes.
It says also we improved dusk and dawn lighting, adding some directional shading to give the environments more depth. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so there are a couple times throughout the day-night cycle. So the sunlight itself and then the moonlight are the same light. But the sun and the moon are in very different positions when they crest over the horizon. Mm-hmm. And so
new build of element.
Since we can't just fade from this to this like instantly, we basically fade off the sun and then fade on the moon. So there's this little window where we have no actual directional lighting of any kind.
Oh, okay.
We're using the cube map lighting for the rest of, like, anything that's not hit by sunlight is being hit by a cube map right now. Mm-hmm. That lighting is very, very flat. There's not a whole lot of directionality to it. And so if you look at like a cylinder in that scenario, it just looks like a flat card, basically. It doesn't look like it has any depth to it because you don't get brighter on one side and darker on the other.
Okay.
So we went in and reauthored our different cube maps to give more directional components. So that basically what this all means is that the dawn and dusk, when there isn't direct sunlight, it's got a lot more directionality to it. Everything pops better.
Okay, so things have shadows on themselves and stuff, whereas they might have been really just kind of flat and washed out before.
Not even necessarily shadows, just a lighter side and a darker side.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I should mention real quick, by the way, for those of you who have joined us recently, we are doing a giveaway in about 25 minutes. So at about 3:40 Pacific time, we're going to be doing giveaway. We're giving away an Xbox One controller that's designed for use with PC. So they're like the one that Brant's using right now. So we're giving away one of those. So don't try to enter the giveaway now, that thing. Don't try to enter the giveaway now because it's not active yet. But around 3:40, we're going to be doing the giveaway. So stick around for that if you're interested in grabbing a free controller. And you are just insisting on fighting in the most dangerous possible location.
It's cinematic.
But look, yes. Yeah, seriously, look over that landscape. I mean, I love how sort of the fog gives you this really strong sense of depth.
Yes.
And then it's fading out into that sort of distinctive green color that Cascade Hills is going to have.
Here's
now.
a cool thing. Can you run down to like some trees?
Can I or will I?
Will you?
I won't run down. I will drive down.
So if you get a tree in between you and the sun is what I'm looking for.
Oh, gotcha. Oh no! This
Taking the
this
quick
is
way.
fine.
Everything's fine.
This is fine. Nice. So where is the sun?
Maybe, yeah.
I can't see this.
It might work better in another map too.
Yeah.
Like a less overcast sky.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll save it for Meeker then.
Okay.
So, by the way, we're going to be going to a section on night pretty soon. So I don't know if we want to like try to cheat this map to be at nighttime in just a few minutes.
If you want.
So let's just keep that in mind that we might need to do that. But we got a few more lighting things. So vehicle lights, materials, and VFX received a visual overhaul to improve appearance. Functional brake and reverse lights were added to all cars.
Yes. That was more Gronk than me. I didn't touch a whole lot on the vehicle headlights. Basically, now if you look at the front of the car, those headlights actually look like lights.
Yeah, they're actually kind of blowing it out a little bit, right?
More so at night.
So yeah, we'll have to check out the head and taillights once we actually start.
You can see
looking at
how they react when you jump them off a cliff too.
Yeah,
Yep.
but when you're going backwards, actually having the reverse lights turn on, that's something that very detail-oriented fans have been complaining about for 2 years.
Me too.
So seeing that is really nice.
Another thing we have changed, I don't know if this is in your patch notes or not, but a lot of people are going to be thrilled about this. We used to have this bug where the light would shine off the tops of cars and blow out the lens flare.
Yeah.
Like blinding degrees of lens flare off the tops of most cars. That is almost completely gone. It exists in a couple of scenarios, but it's...
You can sort of make it happen, but you got to be trying almost, right?
Right.
So I need to catch up with some questions from the audience before I move on with the patch notes.
Sure.
So we're getting questions about whether the frame rate is any different, particularly on the Xbox One than it was before the update.
So one of the things that enabled us to do all of this is that we now have a graphics engineer, which I'm amazed we shipped State of Decay 2 without a graphics engineer to begin with.
Yes.
But he was able to get us back some additional performance that we were able to then spend on these new upgrades.
Okay, so it should be pretty much steady frame rate before and after the update.
If anything, it's very slightly better.
Or maybe just more stable or something. It's not like we're shooting for like astronomical frame rates in the first place. We're aiming at 30 as sort of our standard, but so it should be more consistent. So Stephen Mua, we're going to get to Stephen Mua's question, but has night been changed as well, or no?
Yes.
So we'll get to the details on that, but yeah, there are changes at night.
Do you want me to switch to night?
If you want.
Actually, yeah, why don't I switch over to just my stupid face, so you can do some changes, and let's see what our other questions are.
What time?
Let's do 21.
Okay, let's see here. Did the Microsoft acquisition help with the graphics update? Like collaborating with other first-party studios, having more resources at your disposal. So I don't know if there were any specific things we did here for the Juggernaut edition that were reliant on outside resources via Microsoft.
Not that I'm aware of.
But I would say that the fact that we were acquired by Microsoft is what's allowed us to continue pouring resources into State of Decay 2.
Yep.
Instead of having to move on to the next contract, the next game, the next big project. We've been able to stay here and work on this game because Microsoft basically is
Downtown.
kind of given us a little bit of a blank check to keep maintaining this game and trying to make it as successful as we possibly can without having to
Don't come back to me yet.
to move on to some other project. So Nightmaker wants to know all this fine tuning of the artwork. Like how long did that take the team? Were you working on it the whole time we were working on Juggernaut?
Yes.
So that started back like at the end of last summer, basically.
Yeah. The graphic improvement strike team was one of the first strike teams we made for Juggernaut, and I'm still wrapping up like fine-tuning little things. We have our build packaged up, so I'm done working on that. But like first patch afterwards is still like making adjustments.
Does this feel like a rare luxury to be able to work on something like this so long after release and get this kind of time?
It does. It's a bunch of stuff that I kind of wish we could have done in the first place, but I'm super thrilled that we have the time to actually do that now.
So here we are at night.
Yes.
Maybe I should pop open my nighttime list here. So at some point we should probably see what a car looks like at night. But other comments on night. So we enhanced the rendering of nighttime scenes to use smoother gradients and more accurate color representation.
Yeah. So, you know how I was talking about you walk inside and the things brighten up, right? Mm-hmm. Mathematically, we end up working with very, very small numbers when you keep brightening up and multiplying the numbers you're working with get really, really small. And so we end up with like these weird color bands. Like you'll see, if you look at a gradient in the sky, it's almost like stripes of color, and it looks really bad. Right,
because you've got sort of a certain amount of like brightness values at your disposal, and when you're talking about the very darkest scenes, it's like you've got a palette of whatever number, and you've like got like 5 down here to work with, right?
That's exactly what's happening. And so another thing our graphics engineer did was introduce some color scaling that basically brings up the numbers before doing all of that math, so that we have a wider palette of colors to work with, and it gets rid of a lot of those bugs. We saw it a lot at nighttime, and we also saw it a lot in really dark buildings.
Like somebody would look at the sky or look at the ceiling or something, they would see like streaks, like almost like a very subtle rainbow.
Yep, exactly.
Across the sky, because it just like you just didn't have enough colors to work with to have there be a smoother difference.
Exactly right.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. Night skies are generally brighter depending on cloud cover, providing a clearer horizon that helps with nighttime navigation.
Yeah, we are in the worst map for that because there's so much cloud cover here that you're not really going to see it.
So we'll have to look at night in like Meeker Valley. Want to switch?
Why don't we switch maps?
Okay, well let me just stick my face back on the screen while you're switching maps, and let's see here. Oh, we've got some improvements to flashlights we can talk. Why don't we sort of... Actually, no, let's just ignore the nighttime stuff for now until we're actually in a new nighttime map.
Okay.
Let's say we performed a visual pass on bloom and lens flare.
Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about with the tops of the cars.
Right, okay, cool. So the middle one is Meeker Valley, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we're going.
Cool.
And so it had greater benefits than just the tops of the cars, but that's where it's most noticeable.
Okay, yeah, so our patch notes say we reduced the overall intensity of lens flares, which makes sense. The lens flare and bloom thresholds were adjusted to reduce cases of blinding lights on the tops of cars.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's very specific. Also, lens flares now appear on the Xbox, not just the PC. They used to be a PC-only feature, but now the Xbox has got that benefit too.
Yep.
Is that a result of just like unlocking more resources, basically?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh, hey, well, let's get back to the gameplay.
Colorful.
Yes, so now we are in Meeker Valley.
And wow, that is so. I mean, like the contrast here is amazing. Like it is, you can really tell the difference between the brights and the shadows more so than you could before. That is just gorgeous.
Pretty.
So here's one I've actually ever since I typed up this patch note, I've been wanting someone to explain it to me. We improved screen space ambient occlusion. What's that?
Can I see? Let me see if I can press a button here. Nope, we are not on a demo.
We're in test mode, sorry.
Gotcha, okay. So basically, screen space ambient occlusion.
Yeah, if this is hard to explain, then I understand.
How mathy do we want to get right now? So basically, there is a pass over the whole screen that artificially darkens like things in close proximity to each other.
Oh, so like if an object is sitting on the ground, it gets a little edge of shadow around it or something?
Yeah, and it's not even shadow. It's just darkening.
So to help you, is it like to help your eyes find edges and things like that?
Yes. So it
like
helps
objects
everything
pop
not
more?
look quite so flat. If we can get Brant to pause, actually look inside the crate here, or this building here. So I wish we could point at the screen. So,
Yeah.
so if you look at like the edges of
like the tables and stuff, or the
yeah. Like no, where the corners of the crates meet, where it darkens a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And where the table meets the wall, there's that little kind of darkening around it.
Okay.
We used to hand paint that into the models, or the textures of the models, but now we don't do any of that because all of this stuff happens.
And so there's basically just like one of the many passes that go across the screen before the frame is actually shown to the player.
Yes.
Is one that creates all of that darkness and makes the world pop more.
One of these days we got to do a stream where we have a dev build where I can like turn on sheets and like show behind the curtain on a lot of this
We
kind
should
of stuff.
absolutely do that sometime. Yeah. So what I think we've moved away from using PCs here, but I think if we can keep stealing this mega computer that we've got, maybe that's exactly what we should do. Another thing. So
For a second here, I'm just curious.
So Matt already explained reducing color banding in low light situations. That's another item on the patch notes list.
Off screen, I can't actually read it. Oh well. Okay.
So we can skip that one.
Because I could, if I can remember the command for it, I can toggle it on and off and actually show you what it looks like, which is pretty cool.
So we've got unfortunately you can't see the console because of this terrible TV that we're using. We're near a bunch of trees, however, and we've got a whole section here on environments that starts with. We optimize trees and foliage to improve performance, increase detail, improve LODs, level of detail, and improve light response. So improve LODs, does that mean that like we've got better looking trees further away from the camera?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Is it the same trees effectively? They're just being LOD'd out in a different way, or are they basically brand new trees?
Dave will have to correct me if I'm wrong on this one,
Okay.
but I believe they're. So I know the trees in Heartland were new trees that we made specifically for Heartland, and they were significantly better than the trees that we had in the original 3.
Gotcha.
And so I think we brought over some of the trees from Heartland and then improved the remaining trees so that they're all up to the standard that we had in Heartland.
Okay, so we basically set a quality bar and did whatever it took to get all the trees up to that quality bar. So now like trees that are in the distance are going to look are going to look sharper and better.
Yep.
And then all the trees are just better realization of their foliage, stuff like
You're
that.
not going to get as much of that weird popping that you'd see on.
Yeah.
Hello.
So
I guess you loaded me up. Everybody has heavy weapons, don't
I got a lot of heavy weapons. Yeah, I like seeing the zombies fly.
Squish.
So I'm not sure about the wording of this. It might be a typo or something. Grass lighting mode was fixed so that grass now lights correctly in all situations and casts shadows, allowing it to appear more grounded and natural.
Yes.
Is that actually the
That
word
is
mode?
actually-
The word mode felt weird to me, and I wasn't sure what that means.
So there are a bunch of different ways that objects can receive light, and the way that grass was receiving its light was wrong. And so I fixed that.
Okay, so there's like a new way that grass is dealing with light altogether,
Yeah.
and it makes grass look more natural in the environment.
Yeah, so for performance reasons, a lot of the things outdoors are not actually like requesting, hey, what's my lighting? They're not asking the game what its light should be like. We have a single light sample way off, like floating in the middle of space out off in the distance where the player can't reach, and we sample light from that point. And that light sample basically gives pure outdoor lighting, as if you're just standing in the middle of an open field, right? And so we can use that light sample much more cheaply than we can each individual object saying, hey, what's my lighting like?
Am I in the shadow of a building, or am I, or whatever?
Right. Am I indoors? Am I right up next to something? Am I underneath a carport? All that kind of stuff. And so for performance reasons, grass was initially like that. But then you end up with scenarios like the barn, where there's grass growing inside, like on the dirt floor of the barn, and that grass was lighting as if it was outdoors.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so it would always be glowing and just kind of look weird.
Okay, so now grass is basically using sort of a more complex individual lighting scheme.
What it's doing now is it is basically projecting onto the terrain and inheriting the lighting from the terrain that it's on.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. So one thing that's kind of, I think audience members have commented before, is how interesting it is to realize how little I know about Matt's job. And and how little Matt knows about somebody else's job, and like the sheer number of different specialties that it takes to make a video game. Like I can sit here, I can have a 17-year career in game development. I have no idea how lighting works.
Yep.
Because I don't have to. Because you are an expert in how lighting works.
And nobody knows what I do, including myself.
Yeah, I mean you built all the desks, and that's really what matters. You're instrumental in everyone's job. Let's see here. So, paved and dirt roads have been improved. I know this is a big one you guys have been really excited
this
about.
is so huge.
So this actually was an offshoot of the grass as well. So one of the features that Unreal has that's really nice is this thing called contact shadows, which is similar to ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion doesn't require light. It's just the closer two things get, the more shading you add to them. Contact shadows actually take into account like the direction of the sunlight that's hitting it, and it casts a little bit of shadow. We initially had that turned off. That is a screen space thing, and it doesn't really care how many things are in the scene. Like, with a normal light, the more things you have in the scene, the more expensive that shadowing light gets. With a screen space pass, it is number of pixels, and that's it. It doesn't care how many things you throw into the scene, it's just number of pixels. So this contact shadows thing allowed things like grass to get their shadows back. when we shipped vanilla SOD2, we had that turned off for grass because the roads were using basically a plane that had a transparent edge around the edge of it, and the roads float ever so slightly. And so the roads would cause a contact shadow of the screen space pass, and you would get a shadow under the road but above the dirt that the road was sitting on. And so all of the roads looked like they were floating ever so slightly.
But I mean, Mark did such a nice job. Both you guys did. It just looks like a real road now with the oil stains down the middle. Just all sorts of great stuff. I love this.
So it's not just the way the lighting is handled relative to the roads, but it's also, I mean, they get an entirely new material and everything?
New material and new mesh, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
I redid everything on the road.
So did you have to meticulously go through every single map and like change the mesh
No.
going down the road, or was there a universal change that you made that got applied everywhere?
Yeah, it's a universal. Like you change this chunk, and then everything that references this chunk now uses that chunk instead.
So our roads are chunked together from like.
Yeah, they're extruded from static meshes that we use as splines.
Okay, cool.
So once we went in and removed that transparent card and changed it to an opaque card, then you have like the edge of the mesh just looks terrible. And so I came up with a solution where we have like really high tessellation of geometry along the edges, and then we add a world space noise and sync it into the terrain. And so you kind of get this breaking up of the edge of the road.
Gotcha. Okay, so instead of basically the road like needing to float a little bit above so that it's not clipping with anything, or like Z-fighting with whatever's underneath it, now you've made it so that it can touch the rest of the world and look really good where it touches.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool.
And then because we were no longer using that transparent floating card, we can turn contact shadows back on, and
then everything looks better.
all of the grass now actually looks like it's touching the ground.
Which, yeah, I think you can see that here pretty well, actually.
Yes.
You've got like sort of the tufts have more shadow underneath them than
Yeah, they
other
feel
places.
better placed. They feel like they have a place in here instead of
like somebody put effort into like really making sure each tuft of grass belonged.
Yeah, the original road textures that we had were another case of placeholder art looks too good.
Yeah.
We had always intended on improving it, but there were so many other higher priority things, and because it looked good enough for now, the cutoff point, it didn't make the cut.
Yeah, no.
And
that
so
makes
when
sense.
we came back in for a graphic improvement, that was pretty high on the list of like, let's get brand new material and textures over the whole road.
So this next item on the list is we improved the opacity and appearance of window glass.
Yes.
So what's going on with windows?
Glass is really, really hard to do.
You want to go find a
Let's go
find a building?
Let's go inside a building.
Actually, while he's going to find the building, do we want to talk about with a building, and I can maybe ask him a couple more questions from the audience while we're getting there? Okay, so we'll talk about windows in just a second. Let's see here. So Yukiko Davila wants to know, who are the people in the pictures on the walls of the houses we loot? They suggest that might be a Brant question.
That is a heavily photoshopped old public domain photograph that we then went in and altered again.
Okay, so it's a lot of public domain stuff. Occasionally, like, do you throw like names, like the faces of coworkers and stuff in there occasionally?
The police station has like wanted posters for half the office. You want to switch it back to noon while we're here?
Oh yeah, let me get off screen while you're messing with the.
Here's that auto exposure.
No, don't show the thing.
Gosh,
no,
darn it.
We never show the thing. Another quick question.
Oh, now I'm getting eaten.
Let's see here. I saw it. What was it? Oh, Sloppy Friend wants to know, are heavy weapons going to be 2 slots big in our backpacks, or will they fit like standard weapons? They fit just like standard weapons. Anything, no matter how big it is, because remember, if you're carrying a huge
example?
gas generator around,
you.
that takes up 1 slot in your backpack. So it would be weird if a shovel also took up 2 slots in your backpack. So yeah, everything just takes up a single slot. However, the heavy weapons do tend to be physically heavy, because that's their name, and it makes sense.
We're good.
Okay, let's switch back to gameplay. Okay, so we got some windows here. Tell us about these windows.
So basically, the trouble with glass is that you see right through it, and it's really hard to tell if there's actually a window there or not.
That's true.
We worked around some of that previously by basically tinting all glass. And so in the original game, all glass had a slight tint to it so that when you shoot out one window pane, you could tell which part was glass and which part wasn't.
Yeah.
Mark went in and created a whole new texture set, and I redid the shader for all of it so that glass just reads a whole lot better now.
Yeah, it looks like there's now, like, instead of it just being generally tinted, there's like features to the glass where you can tell it's there because it's got dirt around the edges and stuff like that. And it's got like a subtle reflection on it?
Yes, it does.
I'll check that
So that's
out.
the other thing is I put in, it's a little video game magic, I put in a fake reflection on top of the actual reflection
Okay.
to help get that little shine that glass has.
Yeah, so it still feels totally transparent, but you can still also see that it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it so much, I shoot it
Let's see here.
and jump through it.
So the
So if
next...
you turn around and look at the front of the building now,
Oh yeah, let's go have a look.
you should be able to pretty easily see which windows have glass in them and which of them don't.
I think I blasted
Did you shoot them
most
all
of
out?
I
You
think
shoot all the windows. That one definitely has glass in it.
Yeah, you can see a shine back there.
Yeah,
Oh no, that was the.
it's pretty subtle, but I do feel like it's there.
We're not getting direct sunlight on this one either.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Anyway,
So we did
see
have
if I
some
can
questions
find
about whether there were any changes to our survivor models. And also somebody else pointed out how filthy our characters are when they were
Yes.
looking at the dev diary. So I don't know, whenever you're in a position to open up the community screen, that's probably a thing worth looking at.
love the helmet that went flying.
I know.
All right, let me here. I'll get us off the screen so we can sort of see. So zoom in on these characters. So I don't know. So our morale isn't probably terrible right now. So we can't see as much of the grime.
I can cheat really bad morale.
But she's
you
got
can
like a
see
little
it, you
bit
can
of
see
dirt
it.
patches on her face.
Yeah. So not only do we have this new, so we got this new system basically where if your character has low morale, you're going to see more and more dirt collecting on them. Like they're just not doing their laundry, they're not bathing, they're just really depressed, and you can tell it on them. But if you get their morale into the positive, then they'll be clean. And so you'll probably meet a lot of like dirty people out in the world. Invite them into your beautiful, blissful utopian community, and then make sure that that they get sort of get cleaned up.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun difference. But also, you might have noticed that the lighting on that screen was also completely redone.
Yes, that was another one where it's like, temp art was too good. We just didn't have time to do the real art.
Yeah, no, exactly. So do you want to pop that open again real quick, just so we can like look at like what changed about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can't find a place that is
A little safer?
safe from zombies
To
here.
climb up onto a rooftop or something?
Yeah.
I love the way the water looks, by the way. Like these areas that are just a little bit flooded are some of my favorite things to look at.
Those vines, just every video game ever makes me want to climb up those vines.
Yeah, exactly. So
In fact, I'm gonna go to the place that they can never reach me.
just way up here. Way up here.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, let's pop open the community screen. And so what did you do? I mean, I feel like the characters are popping from the background a lot more than they did before. Like what's going on there?
Just basic lighting principles of having like a key and a fill and a spot. And...
Okay, so key, fill, and spot. You want, or is that a little bit too much detail for right now?
So basically, if you look at like this bright highlight they have on the side of their
Zoom
face,
in on somebody?
there's this light kind of back into the right that hits the side of their face. This is,
I think the woman on the far right is
if you
easiest
go,
to see.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, zoom in on her. Yeah, so you see, like, oh yeah, just right on the other side of her face from us is like much brighter than the rest. You kind of really see the right edge of her body and of her face a lot better.
Yeah, it helps add separation from the background, so they don't look like they're just kind of blending in with their surroundings.
Kind of the way I'm blending into the wall behind me right now,
Yes,
because I'm kind of
exactly.
overlit from the front, nothing from the back.
Yes.
It's kind of, this is like the worst lighting setup in history.
Pretty close.
But you're better than that, and so when you're in charge of the lighting, it looks like this. So
Yes.
that's good, yeah. And also, want to get out of the closet and zoom in on her character, because her portrait is also different in the upper right-hand corner.
Yep, similar thing. So the original portraits were straight on, and looking at people straight on always looks really weird. You always see like everyone a little bit to one side or the other. It's rare to just get a perfect straight on of someone's face.
That's why when I talk to you, I always do this.
Yes, the old side eye.
So it is 3:40. So real quick, I just need to kick in our giveaway. So we're going to be giving away an Xbox One controller that is specifically designed to work with PC. It's got a little PC Wi-Fi dongle thing, whatever, Bluetooth, whatever, I don't know, magic that makes it work on your PC. So if you hit this in the chat, ! Enter, you'll be entered. And in 5 minutes, we're gonna close the doors on this thing. Megan's gonna pick a winner, and we're gonna give away the controller to somebody. So just wanted to make sure everyone knew about that before we continued on. And so we're still running around in this is Meager, right?
Yeah, I'm going to switch over in a sec, but
Yeah, we should also at some point. Do you want to do? You wanted to look at the sun through a tree in Meager, and I think we also want to look at nighttime here, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the same effect in here. It's going to be pretty subtle.
Where is the sun? I guess we can kind of tell it's sort of on the left, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, maybe going in and turning around. There we go. May I drive?
Yes.
Yeah, here.
Oh, yep. Zombies.
You see how bad I am at this game now?
Yeah, usually when you're testing lighting, you just turn off all the zombies.
Yes, I really do. I am horrible at this game.
That's okay. You'll be fine.
Okay, here. Now it's kind of subtle, but you can see like the light
right there, yeah.
catching this ray of light coming in through the window. This was that volumetric fog I was talking about.
Wow, that is really subtle. Yeah, I totally see it though.
But that's exactly that same fog you were talking about in the first map, where everything had that kind of green tint to it. Oh, here we go. How do I get out? Here we go. This, where we can see the light kind of passing through the trees.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at that.
Right?
You can see the little god rays.
Yes.
It's not like manually created god rays. It's natural god rays.
Yes.
Wow, that is gorgeous. And also another thing I was noticing in that scene, the sky in the background was really bright. Everything in the foreground was really dark, but there was still enough definition in the stuff in the foreground that I could see everything.
Yes.
That's hard to achieve.
That was the intent, is that you should be able to like visually identify lit areas versus shadows, but there should still be definition in both.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Let's switch to the other map.
Sure.
Okay, so let's switch over to my big dumb face so that I can, let's see, let's look at some more, huh?
I think there's a band called Big Dumb Face.
I mean, I thought you were going to say there's a band called Geoffrey's Big Dumb Face,
No.
which I was like, somebody needed to tell me about that before stealing my likeness rights. Let's see here. So MRD Gaming asks, what was the inspiration for lighting when it comes to applying it to a world that's not quote unquote normal? How hard is it to get it right? And I'm not quite sure what he's asking exactly, but you want to like I guess you're trying to apply like it's kind of a naturalistic world, but you're also trying to put some artistry into it and maybe some unnatural color. Like where do you draw the line? Decide how it's supposed to look when you're walking that kind of balance.
We like to use the phrase stylized realism, which basically means that we want things to look realistic. They're not cel-shaded. They're not cartoony. It's not like Katamari or something very, very soft and playful. We want it to look vaguely realistic, but we also want artistic choice. We're not going for photorealism.
Because so what's the difference between sort of like photorealism and something that's artistic but still authentic? Like, do you like? Is there a way to even describe it, or is it just a feel thing?
You can push things like the saturations
Yeah.
and things like that to emphasize. Like this is a good example. Matt has pushed some more reds and yellows into this map. But
You can tell you're in the desert now. Whereas in the
Yes.
last map, you were definitely in a green, lush.
Somebody mentioned that I looked annoyed, and no, I'm not annoyed. This is resting Brant face.
So Old Salty Dirty wants to know, what about birds and lizards in Cascade? Did they get a graphical upgrade? The little
Not that
skittery
I'm aware
animals.
of. It could have. So many things went into this, and
They are now self-aware.
Yeah.
But they do the same stuff. They're just really, really angsty about it.
Now they're doing it on their own volition.
They're like that robot in Rick and Morty where it's like you pass me butter. That's what you do, and he's like, oh God.
That's all I do.
Okay, so
There's another question there.
there was another question. Let me see. I missed it. Oh,
Do the portraits change if you change the survivor's clothes? No. The reason for that is because the portraits are generated offline. If we go in and generate a portrait for every possible combination of every possible outfit for every possible character, it's going to fill the whole disk just with textures for that. Not really, but
Yeah, it'll be the biggest update anyone had ever downloaded for our game.
And so with the outfits, we kind of wanted this notion of like the clothes you find them in are their defaults, and their portraits always show them what their default. And if you ever want to like remove everything, we don't do like the RPG thing where we stand them there in their underwear. We return them to their default outfit.
So so why do we generate those offline?
So we can make them look better.
Good. So any process we came up with that was going to generate those portraits just on the fly in game was going to necessarily not be able to do as good a job as we could do rendering them offline and then just having them be textures that are available.
Well, there's a more practical answer as well, or another reason that is practical for us in that we don't have to have somebody test every permutation of clothing on every character.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
To make sure. I mean, the testing time alone would be a nightmare.
Yeah, that is one problem, because you always, this is something we've been trying to become more aware of as a studio in general, is the fact that there are lots of jobs, like there's something that Matt could do in 5 minutes that would take someone weeks to test.
Yep.
It does.
And we have to count that in when we're counting how long something's going to take.
So here's a fun thing. When we light the characters, basically there are these invisible light samples called light probes that are scattered throughout the world, and the character always takes their lighting from the nearest 3 in averages, depending on which 3 they're closest to. Mm-hmm. When you get up really close to a wall, sometimes your character will sample the light probe outside the wall. So you're standing in a dark building and sampling light outside. And so your character, and this is something that we have a couple of them in the game. If you know where to look, you can find a couple of them where you push your character up against a wall and they get super bright. We had QA for months pushing their characters around the perimeter of every single instance of every single house in every single map.
Oh, wow.
It was a several-month job.
Just to find all the places that can go wrong?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's I mean, when they're busy doing stuff like that, we can't add features that would require them to, spend that much time, so we have to be really careful about what we're adding.
So let me just interject real quick, because we have a winner for our giveaway.
Hey.
That controller is going to go to Suppressed Dreams. I believe they're on YouTube, which actually means I think we have a harder time contacting them. So Suppressed Dreams, if you're listening to us right now, first off, congratulations. And second, if we don't find a way to get in contact with you, please send us a message at social@undeadlabs.com and let us know who you are. And please, nobody go and try to steal this. Give it to Suppressed Dreams. But yeah, so let us know who you are, and we would be happy to get the controller out to you.
Congratulations, Suppressed Dreams.
So another question, Fred Garvin asks, how much study did you have to do out in the real world to get this stuff this good? What do you have to know from reality?
Well, I'm also a photographer, so I do a lot of work with lighting and composition in the real world.
And
so
a very good one, too, by the way.
I wouldn't say very good. I mean, we have Alan and Dan.
Are you calling me a liar?
Yes.
Oh.
That's Brant's special skill outside of work, is lying.
Next to Alan and Dan, no. But
you're gonna get annoyed face here in a second.
I can't tell. But yeah, so it's one thing that I think is really cool about the studio is that a lot of the people who work in art and in tech art and stuff also have like practical artistic things that they like to do in their spare time, whether it's photography for you and Dan and Alan, or like the Susan, all of the physical costumes and stuff like that she actually makes in the real world. It feels like, I don't know, it might genuinely give you like a stronger sense of what our digital world should look like and how it should work, because you touch reality more often.
It's also just kind of the curse of the artist is that you kind of always got to create, right? And so like, when I'm at work...
Unless you're dead inside like I am.
There's that. When you're at work, you are working on a very specific thing, and anything you get the urge like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if I made X, right?
Yeah.
If X doesn't fall into the State of Decay universe, it just kind of builds up over time, and then you get this whole mountain of like, oh, all these things I want to go off and make sometime, and they just never get around to it. And so having other creative outlets to help, like, output art that we want to make that doesn't necessarily fit with the art that we're making all day, every day.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
666 Chaos, you're getting what you just asked for.
Which is what?
SKS rifle.
Oh, gotcha. So quickly, I want to get through the rest of these patch notes. So this one is one you mentioned already. We've enabled volumetric fog to provide
Yes.
better, more realistic atmospherics.
Yep.
So that includes those god rays we were looking at through the trees. That's from the volumetric fog.
We're looking at some of that right now.
Yep.
And so yeah, so we've
All
got
that
sort of
stuff in
like,
the distance.
how do you approach making the fog in Drucker look like dust in the dry air, whereas the fog in like Providence Ridge and Cascade Hills looks like wet mist? Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I definitely am perceiving it.
It's mostly just
Oh, God.
color tones and intensity,
No.
saturation.
That was great, Brant.
Well done.
Whoa.
I'm just
Nice.
I'm just looking for faster ways to get down the hill.
I gotta say, the sort of like aftertouch that lets you roll a car over is one of the best features in the game.
Oh,
Least
yeah.
realistic, but best.
Yeah, that's actually one of those things, like, ever since the State of Decay 1 days, along
Yeah.
with, like, Rucks and Trucks, and a couple other things where, like, it makes sense from a gameplay perspective, but it doesn't really make sense from a reality perspective, and reality isn't always fun.
Yeah.
And so, like, State of Decay 1, you couldn't roll your car. If you tip your
Oh
car
my
over in a
God.
ditch,
You were screwed.
Too bad.
That was it.
It's
yeah,
there
you're
forever.
walking home.
You had like 15 seconds to find another car and hit it, try and roll it over with the other car, which would often end up just blowing up 2 cars.
Yeah, and the fun thing is that it would remember, like, your car locations, and so you could see your car in a ditch and then drive by it a week later and be like, oh, I remember it. I messed up.
I loved that car.
And now we have the stuck feature that lets you get the car out as long as you can get into it,
Yes.
which is very helpful. Another thing on the patch notes list, we enhanced our gore effects with dripping weapons after hits, more effects for dismemberment, and better splatter patterns.
Yes.
The phrase splatter patterns is really good.
I just showed off the drip.
I was about to say, yeah. So there's a few screenshots that we've got that like have close-ups on weapons mid-strike, where you can just see the blood pouring off the end of the blade.
Yep.
And yeah, it looks, you're definitely seeing a lot more splash when you're taking these zombies out. Ugh.
Yeah, and lighting played into that a bit too. The way we were clamping the color ranges previously, we weren't getting, like, basically the reds from the blood were all bottoming out, and so
It was
a
just
lot
black
of the blood
blood
looked
coming out
black.
of them?
Yeah.
I noticed that, yeah.
And then the explosions too are way more intense as well. I don't suppose you have any sort of explosions or explosives.
If Geoffrey,
if we
Geoffrey
switch away
moves
for a
from
second.
the screen, I can
Here,
get some.
I'm just going to stick, again, my dumb face on the screen while he's doing that. And we've got some other questions that have been popping up from the crowd. So tethering is exactly the same, right? We didn't change the tether distance.
I have
or
no
anything.
idea. That's
you wouldn't
well
know.
outside my
Well, I
area.
know. Yeah, we didn't change tethering. That's still a thing because it's necessary in the kind of with the kind of multiplayer model that we did. What other stuff? Oh, will there be changes to existing missions? So we went through and Leah spent a couple of weeks resolving all the mission bugs that she could find. And so there's a huge section of our patch notes devoted to fixing broken things in missions. And we're also still continuing now to work on sort of pacing and balancing passes with missions to try to make sure that that it's not just you're not seeing the same mission all the
before you
time.
switch
You're not
back.
getting overloaded with missions. Oh,
Never mind,
You want
it's
me to
fine.
not switch back? Because I can
It's
not
fine.
switch. I can unswitch back anytime. Okay, what are you looking at?
Explosions.
Oh, yes.
Blow some stuff up, Brant.
That is
Basically,
beautiful.
like, the brights are brighter, the darks are darker. We get a lot more contrast out of our explosions, and they look and feel hotter and more
yeah.
intense.
So basically, the better the contrast is between like the smoke and dust in the explosion and the bright core, the more it feels
That
hot.
one right there is very cool.
You can blow up your own car there.
Why not?
Yeah, see, this is what happens when you have an economy with no scarcity. When we can cheat, we just don't care about our cars anymore.
Right.
Just blow them up, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's taken a lot of damage. This thing's doing pretty well.
So it actually says in the patch notes here, we performed an FX overhaul for better look and feel on explosions, fires, and driving. So driving, does that mean like rooster tail behind the car looks better, or what does that mean?
Yeah, mostly.
Is it collisions with things, sparks, that kind of thing, or?
A bit, yeah. I personally did not have a whole lot to do with reauthoring the effects.
That's right. That's mostly Gronk, right?
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks, Gronk. They look lovely.
Thank you, Gronk.
And then the last thing on the patch notes list, tiny environment effects like dandelions, pollen, motes, and blood droplets now use automatic scaling by distance to show up better throughout the world.
I have no idea what that one is.
Okay, great. Well, then if we have Gronk on here at any point, we'll get him to explain that one. Did I skip some of the... Oh, yeah, you know what? We should go night real quick. Let's switch to my dumb face again. Let's switch to night so that we can look at some of the other the night things that I skipped before.
Yeah, there we go.
Are we in a good spot?
Yeah.
Okay, so the night things. We already talked about smoother gradients and more accurate color representation. So we got that covered. Night skies are generally brighter. Though we are dead of night right now. I don't know if you can actually tell the difference.
Yes. So if you look down a little bit, you will actually see the horizon.
Oh, just barely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is
wow.
way different.
Yeah, so it really probably depends on the screens of the viewers at home.
It does. And that's one
to.
of the hardest things of my job is that everybody, like, they buy a brand new TV, they install it in their home, they open the menu, go to contrast all the way up, brightness all the way up, right?
And you can't predict that, and so you can make lighting looks really great on your perfectly finely tuned monitor, but it still could look like crap on somebody else's machine, and you don't have a way to make sure it doesn't, right?
I routinely test on 3 monitors. I've got an HDR monitor on my desk. I have a standard, crappy ViewSonic on my desk, and then I come in here on our HDR in the media room,
massive one over here, yeah.
which is like
we used to play
supremely good color.
We used to stream on that one, and I'm sad. We had to move away.
And so I have like 3 ranges of like good and bad, but
you should
there's
use
a lot.
You should also use this TV because this is the worst TV in the building, and you'd get a really good sense of range there.
I had a tech art lead back at Monolith who actually kept a really old CRT on his desk specifically for testing like worst possible case scenario for lighting.
Nice. So the last comment here is that the flashlights have been improved to provide better, more direct illumination and embrace the horror genre.
Yeah, so one of the things with the flashlights is when you are inside a building and you turn on a flashlight and the flashlight bounces around the room, basically the little cone that you get from the lighting from the flashlight was just kind of a visual addition to it. Mostly you turn on the flashlight and the whole room gets bright.
Yeah.
That's not nearly as much of the case anymore. Now, what you see in the flashlight is brighter, and then the rest of the room still gets some light bounce, but it's not nearly as strong as it used to be.
Gotcha. So you can really sort of tell this is where I'm pointing my flashlight, and this is where I'm not.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. So it does feel a little bit more like a horror movie scenario, and less like I've just turned the lights off.
And then also, I put an IES light profile over the flashlight, which basically it's a mathematical dictation of how light fall off works, which gives those little rings around the flashlight, which makes it look like an actual flashlight, not just
like a big spotlight.
A light spot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So so the rest of the patch note, I think you've basically covered all of this. Your flashlight is we reduced light bounce from the flashlight and widened the beam, giving the flashlight's illumination a clearer, stronger focus. So instead of being a tight beam but it lights the whole room, it's a wider beam and it's more defined.
Right.
And then your flashlight is no longer over bright at daytime, so you're not blowing everything out.
Right. Again, with that, the exposure adjustment stuff, because of those small numerical values we would run into, nighttime, so the moonlight is about 20% of the brightness of the sun. In reality, the moonlight is 1/10,000th the brightness of the sun. And so when you turn on your flashlight during the day and when you turn on your flashlight during the night, the brightness of the flashlight doesn't change, the exposure values do. And so at the daytime, the flashlights would always end up being absurdly bright, especially indoors. And so we've put in some code changes to affect the flashlights, basically to dampen them during the day so that we're simulating the exposure difference on the flashlights.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Well,
never mind.
Okay, well, I was gonna say we have just run out of time. It is 4:00, so all the sheer number of graphical changes that went into Juggernaut literally took the entire stream.
Yes.
And usually we run out of content about halfway through. So thank you so much for all of the work that you and everybody else, who was involved in this, put into this, because the game looks really sharp now. And I mean, it looked great before. It looks so much better now, and it's exciting. I'm excited to have my name on this game. That when I had nothing to do with any of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled that it's going out in the wild. I've been wanting to show the screenshots to the world since I started on this, and I've been confined to only sharing them across our office. But now the whole world gets to see, and I love it.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. And there's a new map.
Yes.
So there's a whole other from scratch. You got to do this new map.
Have we shown?
Oh yeah, we've shown the new map. We've shown the new map a couple of times. So people have got a good sense, and it's going to be this Friday, the 13th of March. This is going to come out, and again, just to reiterate for everybody, if you already have State of Decay 2, this is just a free update. You're going to get it automatically, and you don't have to pay anything for it or anything. You get the new map, you get the graphical upgrades, you get the new starter experience if you care about that. A lot of you are veterans, so you're probably not going to play it. You get the heavy weapons, you get the redone UI, and tons of other changes that we're going to release the entire patch notes. And we're going to do a special mega stream this Friday. Brant and I are going to be back here with a bunch of other guests. And
1 to 4?
Yeah, it's going to be 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock Pacific time. We'll give you more details about exactly when and how to find it when we get closer to the time. But yeah, so thank you again to Matt Heiniger and Brett Fitzgerald for giving us this tour.
Thanks, Matt.
Of course.
And thanks to everybody once again. We love you. We couldn't do this without you. Thanks for hanging out with us in our quarantine.
Yes.
Yes, and hopefully we'll go home and none of us will be sick. And that's the stream. So yeah, keep following us on social media, links in the doobly-doo, to find out all the details on on what's going on release day, and we will be happy to see you then.
Is it going to be an awkward sign-off this time?
Oh yeah, always the most awkward.
Inopportune sign-off?
We've got 20 seconds to talk, and we're probably going to cut one of us off right in the middle of a sentence. It's going to be great.
Perfect.
Well, Matt, tell us a secret about the game that nobody knows.
So if you go to the